Hey guys, my name is Nick and welcome to my channel where I cover all things entertainment. Whatever you're watching, I'm making videos about. And every month I take a look at our favorite streaming services to find the best recommendations for you. A nice top 10 for every streaming service, Netflix, Hulu. This is the August edition of Amazon Prime. And you know what? These movies also have a bit of a summer vibe to them. I wasn't even going for it, but if you're looking for those summer vibes, I've got you covered. Number 10 is The Peanut Butter Falcon, an adventure dramedy about a young man with Down syndrome who runs away from the care facility that he lives at. Shia LaBeouf plays a drifter type who bumps into this young man along his travels, and Dakota Johnson joins the fun as a staff member at the facility who hits the road to find our protagonist. The three of them end up on a journey of heart and soul that will warm you up better than a whole big bottle of wine. I think this is one of the most earnestly charming movies of last year, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot better than I expected it to be. I thought it would be too sweet, but it's really quite grounded and real. And I know a lot of other people fell in love with Shia LaBeouf's other big movie from last year, Honey Boy. Well, that's also on Amazon Prime. It's an Amazon original, so take your pick. Number 9 is Frailty, a horrific dramatic thriller starring Bill Paxton as a man who is convinced that God has spoken to him, and it is his role to rid the world of demons. He teaches his two young sons to help him kidnap and murder ordinary people who may or may not be demons. It all depends on what you believe. This is a movie that I discovered when I was a youngster exploring horror, and I'm so glad that I did because I feel like few people talk about it. It's quite underseen, and I know that it has some difficult subject matter, but what's really interesting about it is this one really turned me onto the psychology of characters in film and digging deep into those themes and big ideas. I'm not a religious man myself, but what makes me enjoy this is that I feel like this works as a comment on religion itself, and that it's kind of whatever you put into it. You could see this movie saying one thing, or you could say it seeing another, and I think Bill Paxton, who also directed this movie, R.I.P., wish we got more movies from him. I think he did a fantastic job because I love when a movie can work in two different ways, yet it still has strong ground to stand on. I really appreciate that. And I'm sorry to say it, but this one is actually leaving at the end of the month. I just rewatched this last night, and it popped up like leaving September 1st, and I was like, God damn it, of course it is. Number 8 is Sex Drive, a teen comedy about a nerd who meets a beautiful young woman online and believes that he can lose his virginity with her. So he steals his brother's car and hits the road with a couple of friends to go get laid. This sounds like a typical raunchy teen comedy, but I have to say I think this is really enjoyable because not only is it just hilarious, it is loaded with so many funny sequences of situational comedy, but there are also a ton of jokes loaded in as well. And it reminds me of The Sure Thing for anyone who is familiar with 80s teen comedies. It's really all about these characters and friendship and relationships, and I just think more people should see it. Just give it a shot, okay? It's funny enough just to see Seth Green as an Amish man. Number 7 is Crawl, a creature feature starring Kaya Scodelario as a woman doing a wellness check on her father during a hurricane when the two become trapped in a house that is flooding as alligators attack. This one is short and sweet and simple, but brutal. It is all about the survival action and alligators biting people's limbs off, and the creature feature was my first favorite subgenre, so I will always love these movies. But I think Crawl is a great example of what can be done when you have a good director and good actors, and you give the movie a decent budget. You can make one of these little creature features just as powerful and entertaining as any superhero flick. Number 6 is The Man in the Moon, a coming-of-age teen drama set in the 1950s and stars Reese Witherspoon as a teen girl who experiences first love over the course of one fateful summer. Why am I recommending a teen Reese Witherspoon movie from the 90s on a channel where I'm regularly talking about horror movies? Well, because this movie really messed me up as a kid. It's pretty much on My Girl level. It's a lot like My Girl, actually, in several ways. But if you've seen that, this movie is quite similar. I'll admit I haven't seen this since I was a kid, and I'm sure there are plenty of better movies to be made about the South in the 1950s. But this movie has that scene. There's that scene. I'd like to call this a sweet and charming summer movie, but actually be prepared to have your heart ripped out. Number 5 is The Running Man, a sci-fi action thriller based on a book by Stephen King that stars Arnold Schwarzenegger. I never thought a King book would make a good Arnold movie, but here we are. Set in a dystopian future, a cop refuses to commit a crime for the higher-ups and ends up framed for a horrific shooting. He's forced to participate in a bonkers game show where criminals compete against violent killers in order to earn their freedom. Leave it to Stephen King to do the Hunger Games before the Hunger Games. This one does take a minute to set up its main premise, and you can tell that it really is adapting a book, but I'd say compared to other Stephen King adaptations, this one does just fine. It is totally 80s, so those game show costumes will probably make it or break it for you, but come on, it's King, it's Arnold, it's 80s, it's everything Amazon Prime stands for. Number 4 is Black Snake Moan. This is the one you're not gonna like. Samuel L. Jackson plays a church-going former blues musician who finds the sex-addicted Christina Ricci nearly beaten to death. He takes her to his place, chains her to his radiator, and tries to teach her the ways of calming her soul so she doesn't have to search for happiness with every man in town. I know the idea of a man chaining a woman to his radiator to teach her a thing about sex sounds problematic on so many levels, but I have to say this is one of the best movies about humanity that I could recommend. On the outside, this might look very salacious, and it certainly has its R-rated content, but I think it's a very adult look at real-world issues that explores its ideas and themes in a much richer way than you might expect. Number 3 is Willow Creek, a found-footage horror film about a couple who goes camping in a small town obsessed with Bigfoot. They enjoy the small-town feels and Bigfoot burgers, and it all leads to one horrifying night in the woods. I know found footage doesn't work for everyone, and I often complain about movies that just sort of meander around for a while until they finally do something at the very end, but this one really is all about those final 10 minutes, because they do a good job of getting you sort of acclimated to these characters and you're spending time with them, and it kind of just feels like you're with them on this trip, and then all of a sudden things go straight to hell. I think Willow Creek does a good job of actually feeling like some sort of long lost home movie, because found footage kind of became trendy and they lost that real feel look, but Willow Creek nails it. Number 2 is The Virgin Suicides, a drama about a man looking back on his time as a young teen in 1970s suburban Detroit as he befriended a group of sheltered sisters. The Lisbon sisters consist of 5 teenage beauties who all want to break out from under their religious parents' thumb. The film covers the critical points that define the lives of these young women and how those events affect those around them. I don't want to spoil anything, but I do want to say that the spoilers are right there in the title, so just know what you're getting yourself into as far as content is concerned. But if you can enjoy a melancholy yet beautiful film, I think this is the best thing Sofia Coppola has ever done. Number 1 is Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, a teen comedy based on the book by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan. Michael Cera is a bass player for a small band. Kat Dennings is a young woman spending a night on the town to look after her best friend. The two wind up at a show together and get sucked into a night-long adventure throughout New York City. This was the teen movie of my time. It came out when I was 17, and I saw this 5 times in theaters. I'm not kidding. I dragged all of my friends to see it. I loved it. It captures a very specific time, I would say, if you were like born in the analog days growing up into the digital age. So, you know, maybe this will only work for you if you were born between like 1990 and 1992, but that's me, so I love it. Like a few other movies on this list, this captures something that I really enjoy in film, when it's actually sweet but earnest. Like, it's genuinely good. I can't really sum it up in any other way than I think this movie just actually captures movie magic. The way that this movie ends, like the note that it ends on, is just so feel good, but it doesn't feel fake. Also, Ari Grainer in this movie is an absolute trip, and I love Kat Dennings and Michael Cera. The whole cast of this one is good. This movie is so 2008. It is so very 2008, and that's probably why I love it, but I don't care. I love it. That's my list for the best movies to watch on Amazon Prime in the month of August. Thank you so much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it, especially if you made it to this part of the video. You are my #1 hero. Thank you so much. Leave a comment to let me know what your favorites are. Feel free to subscribe, like the video, share it with your friends. Follow me on Instagram. I have absolutely zero followers. You get to be the first one. I've got a video on the best horror comedies, horror/dark comedies on Hulu coming soon, so stay tuned. I've got good stuff coming your way. But that is it for this video, but I won't stop you from watching another.